The Elden Ring DLC did answer several questions we had about the lore of the Lands Between, aside of putting some things on the table that no one thought before. Let's not talk about the whole Radahn and Miquella thing. But there's a small thing that's yet to be fully understood, although now we have more pieces of the puzzle to go with. I'm talking about Melina, our finger maiden and companion through the base game, and that's exactly what we're going to be looking into today. Okay, before talking about Melina, I would like to clear some things first. Where are the Lands of Shadow located exactly? There is a pillar not too far from where we started called the Suppressor Pillar. Thanks to this peculiar location, we know that this is the center of the Lands Between, where all kinds of death wash up. Some have tried to connect the meaning of the pillar with the nature of the kingdom itself, with the Lands Between being a sort of limbo, accessed by those who come beyond the fog. But let's stick with what is tangible here. What if it refers to an attempt by the Golden Order to seal away all kinds of death? That might be whatever this pillar is really suppressing in the first place. That after Godwyn's death, Marika did everything in her power to stop this from happening again. This leads us to believe that the Veil of the Lands of Shadow was placed after the Night of the Black Knives. And I have the evidence right here. There is a catacomb that we can access in the north center of the map. After many twists and turns, we find a face. The visage of the Prince of Death. The exact same we can find in other places in the Lands Between, such as Stormveil Castle, very well hidden in the basement. In case you're not aware, when Godwyn's soul died, his body was left at the foot of the Earth Tree, where his corpse mutated into a half-sea creature abomination. From that body grows the Death Root, which invests those who live in death. The extension of Godwyn's body and the growth of his roots creates the appearance of an imitation of his own face, the visage of the Prince of Death. As I said, we find this very same thing in several places of the Lands Between. So, if we see the exact same phenomenon here in the Shadowlands, and assuming that the influence of the root does not transcend the metaphysical laws, it means that the Golden Prince had been dead for a while by the time Marika decided to veil the Shadowlands, and that would make much more sense in the timeline, aside from the pillar stating that at some point this place belonged to the Lands Between. And speaking of shadows, we're told that when Marika created the Elden Ring, from the shine of gold, Shadow was also born. In other words, both trees were created at the same time. What if, whenever the shadow of the Earth Tree, or well, the Shadow Tree fell, it made that whole area disappear into a metaphysical plane outside of the Lands Between? Like, imagine a huge veil of shadows where the shadow of the Earth Trees fell, but still being accessible by normal beings, in a sense that they're still physically connected, but there's a literal layer of darkness separating it from the mainland. Okay, but why am I stating all of this? Why am I trying to get? One of the biggest reveals of the DLC, if not the biggest reveal, is that Melina is very much confirmed Messmer's sister. That would make her a direct daughter of Marika and Radagon too. But how does this fit with everything we know about her? I mean, on the base game she offers us to be our finger maiden, to guide us through the Lands Between. Eventually, upon reaching Leyndell, she leaves our side to pursue what she describes as her true purpose.
I'm searching for my purpose, given to me by my mother inside the Earth Tree, for the reason that I yet live, burned and bodiless.
She later returns to us after defeating Margit, as a kindling to fulfill the purpose her mother left her. But one of the mysteries we had these 2 last years, why or how was Melina's body burned? Here's where the theories divide for sure. There are some who even say that Messmer might have had something to do with her state, but let's try to make as much sense of this with what we have in the game. Like most of Marika's children, Melina and Messmer were both born afflicted by a curse. In Messmer's case, he was afflicted by the base serpent, which ate away his flame. But wait, where did his fire come from? Maybe it was a part of the serpent. It is known that the serpents were an enemy of the Earth Tree for a long time. But no, Messmer fire was willed by his own soldiers too. Besides using the winged serpents to help them contain the power of the flame, those are the little guys accompanying him during his boss fight. Here you can see their tiny wings, and when he removes the Eye of Grace from his body, they mutate along their master. Now, take a look at his right eye. It was here where the Seal of Grace concealed the creature. Once Messmer removes it, we see a void. This is pretty much how the Abyssal Serpent manifests itself, as a void of dark fire. We can also argue that the abyssal nature of the serpent corrupted Messmer's fire, turning it dark. But keep in mind that Messmer was born with two curses in a sense, as stated by the Kindling description. The Kindling that burned inside Messmer the Impaler, a dark thing, eaten away at by a wicked serpent, implying that both elements were foreign to his body. Also, keep in mind his phrase,
"Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of Messmer's flame."
Who are those stripped of the grace of gold? The horn scent, of course, is more like a declaration of battle to intimidate. Now, let's see how this connects to Melina. She was born at the foot of the Earth Tree, where her mother gave her a purpose inside the tree. Since we're told that she is Messmer's sister, at some point, Melina's body was burnt, which rendered her bodiless and as a wandering spirit, with no memory of the purpose her mother gave her. That's the reason why she asked us, the Tarnish, to guide her to the Earth Tree, so that she remembers her purpose. Also, in the base game we can find 3 types of butterfly that we now know represents the 4 children of Radagon, and the smoldering butterfly that represents Melina emphasizes that at some point Melina was burned and she's still burning. An eternally burning butterfly found near wildfires and elsewhere serves as a kindling for a number of items. So, the fire is a constant with Melina. Now, when we get to the Frenzied Flame ending, we see her with a curse on her left eye, the opposite of her brother, which is in the right side. Everyone assumes that this is the Gloam-Eyed Queen, the one who commanded destined death before Marika's cosmic schemes. Since we ignored her advice and choose the Lord of Frenzy, she makes a vow to hunt us down and give back to us what we deserve: destined death. But what do we know about this Gloam-Eyed Queen? We know that she created the Godskin Apostles, and that she was an Empyrean, chosen by her own 2 fingers. Clearly, this wouldn't have been possible without the mother finger making contact with Marika in the first place. So, the Gloam-Eyed Queen must have been part of the royal family. Eventually, when Marika needed to establish the Golden Order, the Gloam-Eyed Queen fought Malekith for the Rune of Death. Now, what does Melina say when she finally completes her purpose? It's very similar to Messmer's mantra.
The one who walks alongside flame shall one day meet the road of destined death.
This sounds more like a warning for those who have faith on the Earth Tree, to stay away from all kinds of flame. If Messmer was cursed by the Abyssal Serpent, and had a red fire that probably was stripped from the Giants, Melina had a curse on her left eye. She was an Empyrean, had some sort of flame, but after some event, she became the Gloam-Eyed Queen and adopted the god-slaying fire. But wouldn't that make her a goddess as well? A goddess of death? Picture this. When Messmer enters his second phase, he becomes the base serpent Messmer, as if he was acquiring the very mantle of this entity. Just like when Malenia blooms and becomes the goddess of rot, Empyreans have the ability to literally become gods, and this makes more sense when we see the real meaning of the word in Japanese, which is Shin-Jin, that literally means god person. And since Melina was an Empyrean, she also had this potential in her. Okay, at some point when she was part of the royal family, Melina would make contact with this entity, the Gloam-Eyed Queen, that most likely should have resembled a snake, and the entity used her to create the Godskins. And if you haven't noticed, the Godskin Apostles have some weird snake-like features too. This entity most likely existed before Marika created the current Elden Ring, and when this entity caught notice of her intentions on her crusade against the Giants, she manipulated one of her children to be a vessel. But in the end, she was vanished thanks to Malekith. With the Rune of Death sealed, the Golden Order is established, and the whereabouts of the Gloam-Eyed Queen after the fight were unknown. What if what Melina is really referring to, of her being burned and bodiless, is exactly what happened to the Gloam-Eyed Queen? She has no memory of her mother or knows what her real plan was, but now she acted on her own will. And having seen the lands between for a long time, she came to the conclusion that this world needed death to be restored. Just as the Gloam-Eyed Queen would have wished, of course. Fairly enough, seeing her connection to Messmer's flame, this pretty much confirms Marika's fears and explains her reasoning for banishing the Impaler to the Shadowlands. We also have to remember that the creation of the Elden Ring and the establishing of the Golden Order are two different events. The creation of the Elden Ring is what we see Marika doing at the Gates of Divinity, although some of those details are still diffuse. The creation of the Golden Order, and therefore Melina's defeat at the hands of Malekith, must have happened sometime later. It was there where the Gloam-Eyed Queen lost her form and forgot her purpose. Now, when were Melina and Messmer even born? I think we should place this after Godfrey's victory against the Giants, and I have a reason to believe this. Almost all of Marika's children were cursed. Margit and Mok were afflicted by the Crucible, Malenia by the Scarlet Rot, in part thanks to Romina for sure. And there are some who say that Godwyn was afflicted by the Death Blight before his death. It's almost like each time Marika alters the natural order or messes with the outer gods, one of her direct descendants gets cursed. That was exactly why Ranni was the only valid Empyrean. When Godfrey defeated the Giants, that fire cursed two of Marika's children. But this happened sometime later, since on this occasion, the curse that fell upon Messmer and her sister was the fire of the Giants. That, as a side note, the Impaler was already a soldier when the Wars of Liurnia ended, since the Commander Gaius, Radahn and him trained together. Therefore, Radagon already existed as his father, and maybe Messmer and Melina were the oldest children of this union, followed by Malenia and Miquella sometime later. So, long story short, Melina was burned with a flame, just as her brother, the Flame of the Giants. At some point, she was cursed by the Gloam-Eyed Queen serpent, betrayed her family, created the Godskin Apostles, and Malika defeated her, and the Golden Order was established. Then, at some point in his life, before Rennala was abandoned by Radagon, Messmer was tasked to get rid of the Horn Scent from the lands covered by the Shadow of the Erdtree. Then he is stationed there in the Shadowkeep, and at some point after Godwyn's death, the Queen concealed the lands of Shadow under a veil, cutting all contact with Messmer or his knights. Now, it might have been at this point in which, regretting all this thing about being a goddess, she gave Melina's spirit, which was still alive, only her body was burned, a new purpose, as a kindling maiden, to finally burn down the Erdtree and put an end to the Golden Order. That's why, if we fail to do this by destroying the Erdtree with the frenzied flame, Melina reappears as the Gloam-Eyed Queen, vowing to give us what we deserve. Destined death. But hey, just as the ancient gods of old say, that's just a theory. I really feel there are a couple of things I'm missing, but I hope this helped to contribute even just a little bit to putting some sense to the lore. If you liked the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe, that really helps out the channel. And remember to leave a comment down below and really point out the things I'm missing, or if you like the theory, or if I'm just yapping here. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.